Hello, I think I've got a good one. We're going to be taking a look at the BitsPower NJord II 140mm class fan. At this time, I'd like to thank BitsPower for being awesome and sending me this fan as a review sample. No money exchanged hands. They just like the way I review things and wanted me to provide me the sample to get you all some awesome data. So thank you, BitsPower. This video is also brought to you by me and this channel, and as well as you, my subscribers, for tuning in and watching these awesome fan videos. Let's get into it. So a little bit of spec information with this $26 140mm fan. That puts it into a little bit more of a price, medium to high price category. So we'll need to see if it competes at that level. Let's get into it. All right, and this is the visual appearance of the NJord II 140. 1, 2, 3, 4, so 8 RGB lights around it. One thing to know about this fan is I don't find it particularly bright. And I don't know if there's a way to adjust brighting in RGB software. It's just not my particular area of expertise. I did open up Armory Crate, didn't really see a way to adjust it, so this might just be as bright as it gets. I find it a little bit on the dim side compared to other ones. I guess with regard to that is, my thought is, if you're gonna have RGB, it either needs to be subtle or it needs to be blowing out in your face, and this is neither. If you like that effect, then this is perfect. You found your perfect fan. But that's just kind of my thoughts on the matter, and there's no right or wrong answer. Other notes about it, the RGB, well, I guess we should do a quick walk around. RGB lighting on the back, it's kind of okay, and at this time I guess we should talk about the overall design. So I unplugged the fan, no finger whacking. These struts block a ton of airflow. There's technically 4, but each has a double strut, which makes it 8. And it's the gap in the middle. I mean, technically it's open, but the wider the open space, the better the airflow moves through it, while having a smaller open space, while technically open, does restrict it more than if it was a wider opening. So if they had the same number of struts, but they were evenly spaced, it would actually probably have higher performance than this design. Also, having the struts move in the same direction as the blades does increase the possibility for the struts to make extra noise for when the blades bypass over top of them. So in a revision 3 of this fan, I'd like to see some of those improvements made, and I think it would be a better overall product. These gaps you see around the edges of the frame is an area in which that could also be improved. Basically, if you were to put this on a radiator or anything like that, air could circulate backwards towards, well, the camera here, and would reduce the performance that you would receive. The blade design, fairly unremarkable, kind of an older style. The distance between the blades and the edges is on the high side. It's older style for what used to be an acceptable blade distance. So getting it closer would improve that. The struts, the cabling is not tied into it. They're just kind of loose. That just could be improved. Just a few little tweaks, and this fan would stand out to me as a more successful device. As it is, let's take a look at the performance, see how it actually stacks up. But I'd like to see revision 3. Now, the nice thing I really can say about this fan is it comes stacked with stuff. Now, I'm not going to fully unpack everything, but we got a fan hub with red indicating the one that goes in, and everything else with SATA power. Sticky, 3M sticky on the back. Overall, it looks just fine. I don't have the hardware to really test it for safety, but visually, I see no problems with them. Then we have one, all right, I guess I should open it up. Then we have another one, hub, for the RGB lighting, also SATA powered with an extension cable. So just in case your case doesn't come with these hubs. Now, it would be nicer if they were built in together, but it may have been just cheaper for them to do it this way. And this is what's in the triple pack. So I don't know exactly how much pricing is on it. I've only done basic searches, and each of these, from what I can tell on Amazon, is like $10. Now that could be 10 to 15. So 15 could be for a double, or a single, meaning like RGB lighting and fan hub. So overall, it is a good value in terms of this package for what you are getting. Right, this is kind of an experimental view of a graph, so you all need to let me know in the comment section down below if you like the way that this looks. As opposed to previously, I put this little picture up in the corner and it's more of a graph. But this is the case simulation test. It is to simulate an air-cooled computer case. So you got the front of the case where the fans are, and it blows up to your CPU air cooler. So depending on which data point you're looking at, the 6, the 9, the 11, or the 14.5, is the length of the computer case that is most applicable to you. So the 6th mark is looked at two ways. First way is fans at the bottom of your computer case blowing up into your GPU. And the second way is in ultra-compact ITX type cases, but that still have a front-to-back airflow type design. I believe lian-li has one like it. I think they're not very common, but just in case it is a style that you like, that would be the design that it is. The 9-inch mark is a media center PC, so something a little bit more on the compact side, and that would be the 9-inch mark. Then you got the 11-inch mark. This would be your standard mid towers. Think something that can hold a standard 360 AIO, but not really anything larger than that. And then you got the truly large towers at the 14.5-inch mark, and this would be like a Rock Design Torrent holding 340 millimeter class fans. So we need something to compare against, and that is where my control fan kicks in. The control fan is based three parts A12X52, 1 part A14, blending them together to create a 113 millimeter class fan. So we have the NJord II, and we have the control fan, and we have the NF-A14, just all in one graph to show you performance data. Well, the NJord II is well towards the bottom at my noise normalized result compared to the control fan, moving things up to 100% pedo fan signaling. Well, the control fan is spinning at around 2,000 RPM. The NJord spins at 1,400. So there is a huge difference in maximum RPM, so that's a big difference in airspeed that they can deliver. So we need to compare it against other fans. So here we are comparing against other fans in my noise normalized 10.5 decibel reading, and the NJord II 140 is well towards the bottom. It is possible that I did receive a lemon of the fan, where the bearing about it or something is particularly noisy, or if it's just something inherent about the fan design. If it is about the fan design, I hope BitsPower creates a revision 3 of it because, well, I'd like to test it and hopefully they make some great improvements based on this review. Same thing, just in bar graph form, so we're going to skip past it. Now we're looking at the 17.5 decibel reading, and once again, the NJord II is well towards the bottom of the graphs, so it is not competing very well in a case airflow situation so far. Again, bar graph form. Okay, looking at it in 100% pedo fan signaling, not all these fans spin at really high RPM, but the NJord just isn't competing at the same level in this case airflow situation that a lot of these other fans are. So we're going to keep moving forward. Locking into specific RPM, so 800 RPM, the NJord II 140 is well towards the bottom of the graphs. At 1500, which this fan doesn't quite meet, but I'm going to just say it rounds to it, is towards the bottom graphs once again. Taking a look at the performance per noise, so that's airspeed versus decibels. The NJord II barely makes it onto the graph. It just doesn't move enough air at low noise levels to even really register on the graph, and only pops up as noise gets, well, louder. And taking a look at this time in SONE, so it's just a different way of looking at noise data. And, it's the same story. So I think I may have gone a lemon, but I have no way of knowing because I only have the fan, this one fan. Now we're going to look at performance for my CPU air cooler. It's the Noctua U12A. And we have the NJord II sitting right here in this blue box. And in terms of blade efficiency, that's airspeed versus RPM, the NJord is competing right in line with our control fan, indicating that at least its blade design is pretty good at moving air. But once we take a look at performance versus noise level, the control fan is right here with the red triangles. Then we have the NF-A14. And then behind that, we have the NJord II. It's, once again, just a bit louder. Taking a look at an actual radiator, the Nemesis 140 millimeter radiator versus the U12A. I'd like to thank you, my viewers, and my Patreon and YouTube members in particular, because it's you guys that made it possible for me to buy this radiator. Unfortunately, I still don't have a custom loop cooling system, so I am only measuring airspeed going through it at this time. So that's what this graph is. It is the airflow's resistance to airflow to go through it. And so I'm not saying that a radiator and an air cooler, the U12A, have the same thermal capacity. I'm not saying that the two devices, if you had them on the same CPU, would cool it equally as well. I am saying, though, how hard it is for a fan to blow through it is pretty close to equivalent. As you can see that the indicator dots basically line up very, very, very closely. So the data should be applicable towards a radiator custom loop system or even an AIO as we're taking a look at this. So keep that in mind. So locking into my noise normalized values, my 10.5 is in blue, this 17.5 is in red, and the NJord II is in last place. It is just off the strong position. Locking into a specific RPM, so 800 RPM, the NJord II is once again well towards the bottom, but it's doing relatively okay in terms of the amount of air it moves at the particular RPM, but the problem is the noise that it generates for it is just a bit on the high side. Locking into 1500 RPM, it is moving the least amount of air for the fans in this displayed sample, and it is quite a bit noisier than many of the other fans at moving that amount of air. Looking at 100% pitot fan signal, I highlighted the wrong fan. All right, it is moved to the correct fan now, and we have the NJord II sitting right here at the bottom of the graphs. It is just not moving a lot of air. There are a couple other fans that spin at approximately the same RPM that move quite a lot more air than this. So NJord, or BitsPower, do some engineering work. Begging you. Airspeed performance versus that noise rating. Once again, here we are. We have the graph, and it is sitting well towards the bottom. Now, the one nice thing I will say about this fan is there don't appear to be really any harmonics going on with it, at least in the current testing methodology, which is every 10 decibels. As the channel continues to grow and evolve, I hope to narrow that down to every 5, but that would take testing twice as long. Just can't quite commit to it at this time. Again, SON is just differently looking at noise data, and it's once again sitting well towards the bottom of my graph. Now we're looking at my CFM testing. And the first graph here is much like we saw for the air cooler, where it's CFM versus RPM, blade efficiency, and they're all sitting right line with each other, which is what we'd expect them in this particular type of test. Now the noise efficiency. The NJord is sitting well behind the control fan and even the A14. If we take a look at my noise normalized results, the blue is the 10.5 and the red is the 17.5. The NJord is sitting well towards the bottom of the graph. It just isn't as noise efficient as some of these other fans on here. At 100% pitot fan signal, it doesn't have the kind of grunt that many of the other fans do, and the A14 original spins at similar RPM, is quite a bit quieter, and moves more air. So we need to narrow this down and actually look at the price to see if it has any justification, but before we get to that, CFM versus noise level, routing of the results. Let's keep things moving. So like we said at the beginning of the video, this is a $26 fan, at least pre-tariffs. And in a case airflow type situation, it is not a great value. There are many other fans that are in particular a much better value. Heck, the fans that come in the Fractal Design Torrent, the X2 GP14s, are significantly better than this at their given price. How about in CFM performance for that volumetric flow rate? Well, once again, these fans are sitting well towards the bottom of the graphs. They're just a bit too expensive for the quality of airflow that you're getting at a particular noise level. And as far as they go for a CPU air cooler, they once again are not a particularly great value. They move a reasonable amount of air. They do move air at their RPM, but they're just noisy at doing it, which is a problem, in my opinion. I'm very noise conscious. So that brings us to the end of the video. This is the raw data. The raw data does belong to me and this channel. If you want access to the raw data, please become a subscriber in either as a YouTube member or a Patreon. And you need to send me an email, and I will grant you access to the share drive. It's a very manual process at this time. It will be on a month-by-month basis. And the lower level just has the data. The upper level has all the graphs that I make to go along with it, and I will update it kind of quarterly, I guess. And so that brings us to, what do I think about this fan? It moves a good amount of air. It's got RGB if you like the RGB appearance, but in my opinion, it is a bit noisy for what it is. Now, it is possible that I did get a lemon, and so it's a bad representation of the fan, but unfortunately I have to go by what fans I either purchase for myself or receive from a company. So that is the situation that we're in right now, where it's a noisy fan, and it just kind of comes down to it. It could just be a function of its design for its particular appearance. So it is up to you to decide whether it's worthwhile for you to purchase. And I'm not going to establish an opinion on that. It's just I will explain where I see things with the actual data that I've generated with this with my testing methodology. So with that, I thank you all for watching my video, and I hope you come back and see me again here on Computer Tech and More, and please subscribe.